Hello ladies, I am going to do a quick little video for the center designs that are included in the Volume 2 Kimberbell Cuties. I'm going to start with a deck of cards, which is used for both a Sweet Talk and the Gnome table topper. Sorry about that. So what happens when you purchase the quilting is that you'll receive the quilting designs for all 6 of the table toppers that are in the collection. So for the collection for the gnome, it's a little gnome. It's very, very cute. And then you bring that in first and you center it in the center of your hoop. So this one's already lined up, already in center. Then you bring in the deck of cards file that's included on the CD, and you go ahead and you center that as well. So as you can see, both of mine are centered, so I really don't have to worry about making sure of that. I selected my 240 by 150 hoop. I have my 60 foot attached, and I'm ready to go. So let's take a look at what I've cut out. So for this one, I cut out a 7.5 by 7.5 inch square block. And on the back, I have put the Pellon shape flex. Then I cut out a 6 by 6 batting piece. Then I used my silhouette to cut out the little squares. If you don't have a silhouette and you want to cut out the fabric pieces, they are 3.5 by 3.5. This does make the time go fast, so that is a plus when you're sewing these up, trying to get them ready for the current holiday. So now I am going to start stitching, and in order to start stitching I have to decide what color I am using for the quilting, because what you want to make sure is that the quilting is first. So if you look at the layers panel on your machine, you'll notice that the quilting is right there. So that means it stitches first, and then the deck of cards stitches second. So I'm ready to roll. I go ahead and hit go. And I'm going to attach the hoop. You all know how to do this. This isn't a big mystery. And I pre-shrunk the no-show mesh, power mesh, whisper web, whichever the brand you used. And it says make sure your hoop clicks into place, and it did. So for the first design, which is 1, there are 5 sections. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5. The first one is the placement line for the batting. The second one is the tack down for the batting. The third one is the placement line for the fabric. The fourth one is the tack down for the fabric. And then the last one, as you can see in yellow, is the quilt design. So I'm going to go back up to 1. You'll notice that it starts in the upper left-hand corner. So as you can see, my needle is in the upper left-hand corner of the hoop. Now, I threaded the machine with white. I know you can't see it, but what I'm trying to do is complete a block so it makes sense to you. So I am going to hold my thread until it's done cutting, then pull it. And and then it is stitching around that design. Okay, placement stitch only goes around once. Now, here's my tack down. And I'm trying to line it up, make sure that I have it centered on that block. Now, I can tell right away that my thread popped out. So this is a good learning experience. So what I'm going to do is rethread the machine. And there are a couple of ways to go back in the design on this machine. If you look right here at the stitch out progress, you'll see that it just started the green thread design. Now remember, the different colors are not for you to change the colors. It's to stop the machine. So I can actually go back a stitch at a time if I choose to. Or, as you can see, let me do that again. I can pull up the calculator if I know the exact stitch and go back, just type that number in and go back. My favorite way is just tapping the color block. That takes you right back to the beginning, and as you can see, that color block is stitch number 210. So, you'll notice here that I'm on metering. I really don't prefer to stitch these outlines with the active stitch technology, so I'm going to go up here in the settings, and I'm going to go into the temporary settings side, and I'm going to turn it off. And then I'm going to close this, and I'm ready to tack down that batting to the fabric. So here we go. It doesn't always pick up the thread, so make sure that your tail coming out of the bobbin is long enough that it picks it up. So there's the first one. Now it's going around a second one, or second time, and the purpose of that is so that when you start cutting, that your fabric doesn't pop out because it's actually had double stitching. So it's in your stabilizer firmly. Okay. Now many of our machines have the hoop position, but I'm not sure if all the brands have a hoop position icon. So what I'm going to do is tap the icon that says hoop position, and it brings the, you have the current stitch. Let me go over all of them. The current stitch is where we are now, which is up in that corner. Part position moves the arm all the way over to the left so that you can put it in your case. Trim position is what we typically use. Sometimes it's necessary to use the center position, but I use basically these, current stitch and trim position most often. So I'm going to tap trim position, and you'll notice that it brings the hoop forward, making it a little bit easier for you to cut the excess batting. Now, this is kind of awkward for me while I'm trying to film here, so it's going to look a little sloppy. Isn't that sloppy? So what I'm going to do is you can take it out, but remember it's connected because this is in between the design. And let me try this again. Obviously, when you put it in your lap, you have a little bit more control. Plus, use a pair of nice sharp scissors and you'll have better luck. So let me see if I can cut that. Well, this is the hard part, trying to show you what I'm doing. So what I do is I tend to pull that excess batting forward, and then I'm able to cut it a little more neatly. That looks really bad. All right, almost done. Just don't take it out of the hoop. Take the hoop out of the machine, but not the stabilizer with your design out of the hoop. So now I'm going to put it back in place. Come forward by selecting the current position. So right here, I go to current stitch position. It takes it back up to that mark, that beginning stitch right there. I close this so I can see what I'm doing. And now it's going to stitch the fabric tack down. All right, I'm gonna hold it again. Once it cuts, I give it a little tug. Now, if you've turned off the automatic jump stitch, then after a couple of stitches, it will stop the machine and tell you to cut the stitches. Okay. Now, when you go to put your fabric in place, fold it in half from top to bottom. So it looks like this. Then fold it in half again from right to left, like so. And what you'll get is your square will have a folded mark that is directly in the middle. Now, here's another way to use that trim position. If you recall, I said that when you select that, there's a center position. So if you tap the center position, that moves to the center. That means that moves the foot to the center of your hoop. So now what you do is you take that folded edge, and I know you can't really see it, but it's there, and you don't want to mark it unless you have a friction pen, but it's aligned right there in the center. Now, if you want, you can add a little bit of tape. Don't get carried away. I just add a little bit of tape just to hold it in place, because now what it's going to do is it's going to tack this down. Now, typically, when we do designs from our machine or maybe another company, we'll add the basting box. But this tack down stitch here is in lieu of that basting box. So now I'm going to tap the start stop button. It'll go back to that corner. And it will tack down the fabric. Now with the tone on tone, make sure that the brighter side is facing you. The duller side is the back side of a tone-on-tone design. And I found these St. Patrick Day Shamrock tone-on-tones at Joann's a long time ago, because I haven't been to Joann's since before COVID. I don't know if they still have it. So now it's time to do the quilting. Alrighty. Now, obviously, if this was a darker thread, you could see it. But since all of you have done at least one block, you know what the design looks like. In this email, I have also included a couple of different designs that I found on the Kimberbell and Fella's site. And some of these ladies are so clever and just think out of the box. But for this collection, I'm doing everything by the book, and then you can be creative and turn them into different projects. Someone even actually made a pillow out of it, which is, you know, it's a 22 by 22 inch pillow, so it'll work. So I attached the photos to the email that I sent out for this video. So make sure you take a look at those. Don't forget, you're going to do this 3 more times, so you have a total of 4 blocks for the center. Towards the end. I'm not sure if I figured out how to speed this up. I'm still teaching myself how to use iMovie. According to my stitch out progress, I have 1 minute to go. Okay. Now I'm going to change to green thread, and this one is 231. And because I've cut these designs out, it should go very quickly. So You can do 2 at a time if you want to. If you're, I know some people get confused. So with a double stitching, so in other words, doing one block first and then another block, or color sorting or all that, but you can create whatever stitching order you want that makes you most comfortable. Okay, now if you go back to the directions are on page 22. And on page 22, there is a diagram to show you how to place the colors. So number 1 is right here, then 2, 3, and 4. What you need to do when you do this, just to make sure you understand, is you need to have some contrast between all of the blocks. So what I did is I did 2 light and 2 dark. And let me show you. The fabric pieces are right here. So this one's a little bit different than yours. One of them is going to be the clover, and of course this one's just like the one you have. This one is the gnome. I like that. And then the green like you have. So I put those 2 together. So the technique that we're doing for this class is, instead of stopping the machine after the placement, put the fabric down, do the tack down, and then cut around it, we're going to skip the tack down steps. So we are going to stitch number 1 first. So let me get that started, and hopefully this will make sense. Let's see if that's connected. Okay. Okay. So when you look at the color sequence, you'll see that 2-1, which is the second section, right? These are all 2s. This one whole entire design. The first design is the quilting. The second one is now the tack down. I'm going to skip that. And the next one is the placement for the block below. This is 1, this is 2. So depending on how you start, if you're going to, let's see if I can get this over here so you can get a better view. All right, so this is number 1. Now is number 2. So let me stitch that out. So now it's doing the outline of the placement stitch for number 2. Okay, now you can skip these right now and just go back and do all the placement stitches. So if you look here, that one's the decorative stitch. And they skip the decorative stitch for the first one and do it at the end. So I'm going to skip the decorative stitch, go to 2-6, and let me move this so you can see where I'm stitching. So I'm stitching this block right here. Okay? That way I can put all the pieces down at once. Now, this may be a hassle. You just decide which way you want to do it. If you want to put the pieces one at a time and press them to your fabric, that works too. So now I'm going to skip to 7, to 8, and go to 2, 9. And 2, 9 is this last part. And now I have all the blocks stitched out with the placement stitches. So now I can go ahead and let me bring this back out again and put the blocks down. So remember, if you start with a light, so the light are the odd numbers. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like. Always do them in the same sequence. Make this number 1, put a little pile with all 4 of your pieces in there. Number 1, this number 2, this number 3, this number 4. Now I am working on, I haven't given it a name yet, but it's going to be a little pad that goes underneath your hoops. And I'll show you where I got the idea. You'll have to pardon my mess here. All right, so this is my Cricut pad that goes with my little mini iron. So I had this idea that I could make these to fit each of the hoops. So I'm going to try and figure this out. I saw a couple of ideas on how to make pressing pads online. So I'm going to just make it my own, but that's the plan. And we have this fabric, it's the ironing board fabric, looks like this. And so we can use that for the cover. Okay, doke. All right, let's see if my iron's ready yet. My little mini iron. See, my room is a mess. Got lots going on. All righty. So now I am going to put this right here so you can see it. And I like to heat up the fabric first. So I'm going to, let's see if I can get a better view there. So now I'm going to heat up the fabric, put my little shape right there, and then press it. Now don't get real carried away with the heat, because it'll remove that heat and bond on the back. Same thing here. Heat up the fabric. Make sure it sits right over that placement stitch. Give it a little press. Heat up number 3. Remember, 1 and 3 are the light colors. If you start with a dark, just do, if this is your 1, then just do dark, light, dark, light. That's quite simple, actually. All righty. Now, this is a little off. So when you peel something off like that, try and make sure to give it a little press so it stays down. Because remember, the little decorative stitch is going to go over the edge of these pieces. So And the reason I do the little warm up first is so that when I place that heat and bond light, it kind of grabs it because it's already starting to melt. There. All right. Easy. That takes a lot of time out of the equation. All right. Now let's talk about the sequence. So there's my messy room. You know, guys, this is not professional. This is what you see is what you get. I don't have time to do video editing. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to select my next block. So if you remember, 2-1 was the placement, 2-2 was the tack down, but 2-3 was the next placement line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip to 2-5. There you go. So I'm going to close this. And that 2-5 is that decorative stitch around the deck of cards design. Okie doke. All right, here we go. So it is doing the decorative stitch right here on the edge of the block. Rather than a satin stitch, Kimberbell put this little, kind of like a star flower stitch. And obviously you can understand now why they didn't do the decorative stitch around here. Because this is actually tucked in, or designed to be tucked in at the end. And it should end right here. Which it does. Now I'm going to find the decorative stitch for this one. So hopefully that's it. I've done these so many times, I know which colors are the decorative stitches. All right, here we go. So, like I said, I'm going to finish up this block and then send it out to you guys so that you have some, well, video information basically, so that you can watch this again and finish your other 3 blocks. Some of you are working really hard getting this done, and Yvonne is all done. All she needs to do is go get the backing fabric for the project. I don't know if I'm going to finish this or not. I haven't decided yet because I'm working on a Easter one, and I'll show you that block in a minute since we're finished here. Okay, next color is 211. Okay, I'm going to stop that because I couldn't grab that, so I don't want that to get caught up in my stitching. tail there, tail of thread. Thread tail, I mean. I like the one design that I sent you. It's a table runner. And instead of doing one set of 4, she repeated that a couple more times. Now what that did is made the table runner a little bit longer. All right, last one is right after that previous one that I just finished. Here we go. Now I may be repeating myself, but it won't hurt. Almost done. Let's take a look at the stitch out. You know what I'm finishing up here. Here we go, 1 minute. I really like this t-shirt. All right. There you go, embroidery's finished. Now, you don't technically have to go back out to embroidery edit. You can just go back to the beginning. Here, let me show you what I'm talking about. So if I close this, it goes back to 1-1. And as you can see, it's the placement line for the batting. So you, as soon as you get this out of the hoop, and rehoop your stabilizer, you can continue on. So you don't have to do anything other than that. If you have any questions, just let me know. Now, the last step is to trim this down to 5.5 by 5.5. When you measure this, let me see if I can get a ruler here, something so you can see. Alrighty, let me bring my camera, my iPad right over here to the other messy place in my room. Whoops. So, alrighty, let me see if I can get this in place. Oh my. There we go. I don't have a cameraman, I'm the cameraman. So this outline right here is 5.5 by 5.5. So if I get my little ruler, my grid ruler here, and I line it up, I know you can't see it, but it measures 5.5 by 5.5, which makes it really simple because all you're going to do is just cut right alongside that basting line. That, or tack down, I'm not sure. Maybe that is a tack down, I don't know. Okay, and then you're ready to go. So there you go. There's your square. Like I said, if you have any questions, just let me know. Email me and I'll answer them. Okay?